What Drives You is brought to you by Ziglar, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziglar.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance.
Yeah.
Welcome to What Drives You. I'm your host, Kevin Miller, and thanks for joining me as I talk with today's most influential change makers to uncover what truly drives them and extract the big takeaways from their insights so you can integrate that wisdom and leverage the power of your unique inner drive and wake every day to your authentic, driven, and inspired life. In this episode, I am back with fitness coach and leader Don Saladino for this series that we're doing on physical transformation. In our previous episode, we dove deep into the myriad of complexities and information overload on diet, nutrition, and exercise, and talked about what it really takes to transform our physical selves. So check that one out. It's going to relate to you, whether you're Ryan Reynolds getting shredded for Deadpool or you're a civilian like me who just wants to simply look and feel well. This is my What Drives You episode that I do with almost every guest, where we go behind the scenes, in essence, to find out, in this case, what Don personally does and find out what drives him and what are the values and the habits in his life to help him be where he wants to be. And before we dive in with Don, I want to mention again what we did in the first show. DonSaladino.com is his website. And you can go there. He's got some programs. He's got a quiz you can take that you can go find out what of that he offers is going to fit you well. And on his e-programs, if you use the code DRIVE, you'll get 20% off. Don, thanks for being back, man.
Loved us. Had a great time, man.
Well, let's talk about what drives you. And it's interesting. I'm going to start off with when I had you in the first show, you actually start off, I asked you a little bit about your story, and you said from early on, even as we're going to go through the individual things here, you said from an overall umbrella that you were obsessed. You got to a point of being obsessed with working out and nutrition. And I know you talked about an instance in, second grade where you were kind of getting, I don't know if you said bullied a little bit, but you weren't feeling real self-confident. Is that where it started from? But I mean, at some point you look back and go, what was it that drove me here? Where was that initial drive for, as you said, obsession with working out and nutrition?
I think there was this level of significance that I started feeling from being good at something at a time where I thought I wasn't good at anything. And I think that becomes very motivating. And then realizing that most of the time, not all the time, like when you put an effort into something and you really do your due diligence and you work hard, a lot of times good things can happen from that. Now, granted, you can hit baseballs in a batting cage so you're blue in the face or your hands are bleeding, you could still go for 4 that day. But overall, you're probably going to be a pretty good player. So I think what started happening was, at this time in my life when I started feeling really significant through baseball and sports, I also started looking at some, characters in Hollywood that were kind of popping out on the screen. I'll never forget watching The Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, and seeing this guy who's like green and scary, and like I was somewhat frightened, but in a way I was like, oh my God, like this guy's like, just there was something like almost that attracted you to him. And then seeing some people that I became really good friends with. I saw this guy, Mike O'Hearn, on the cover of Iron Man magazine. I mean, Mike's probably 52 years old. I'm 46. We're probably 5-6 year difference, 7 year difference. But Mike's a good friend of mine. I just saw him at the Olympia recently. We train together when we see each other. But looking at Mike on that cover, looking at my buddy Frank Seppi, Frank was a guy who's 51. So I'm 16 years old watching this guy when he's 21. I'm on the cover of Frankfurt right now. Like, and that to me is pretty cool to be able to turn around and be motivated by these guys, and then out of nowhere you're on this playing field with them. And I owe a lot to these people because they were figures. And yeah, at a young age you want to look like these guys, right? Like you want to be strong, you want to move that type of weight. Then obviously comes in the conversation of women when you're meeting girls at a young age. I'm 16 years old. They're like, oh my God, you're working out, you look good. And I'm like, wow, I can get the attraction of women and also be good for my sport. And like, I'm in, sign me up. And all these motivating factors. But I think even more than that, it was this feeling that I received every time I left a workout, whether I was on the baseball field, soccer field, hockey, even swim team. Like I swam all through high school. I loved it. For some reason, I just loved the workout. I loved getting out of the pool and having that feeling of being exhausted and being in shape, and then going and eating. And then that night you always slept better. So I would always relate this feeling with, that activity. And I think that's just something that became so consistent in my life that you wanted it more and more and more, almost to the point of fault, right? Like I've had to pull back a lot in my life and just be, dude, you got to take a day off. Like this is like, quality now is starting to drop, or maybe the energy level's starting to drop, and you're just, I was always chasing that feeling. So, that's probably why I went off in that path, and that's what drove me to be so consistent.
Well, we'll drill down now and hit some of these key areas of life and what drives you. And the first one I always hit is spiritually. Tell me what drives you there, what your values are, and what you're doing to walk those out.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not perfect like anyone else, but I was raised in a Catholic household. My mom was a Eucharistic minister at a young age. She was my religion teacher. We went to church on Sundays. It was something I was just kind of bred into doing. It was just one of those things that we had to do at a young age. I definitely didn't like to do it at a young age. I think even in college, I was pretty adamant about going to mass. I think I was one of those people that definitely admitted when they screwed up, but I just felt like church allowed me to feel a certain way. I'm not one of these individuals that's like, try to claim that they live this perfect life and they don't make any mistakes. Like, no, I made plenty of them, but I think being at mass on Sundays is something I've always enjoyed doing. It allows me, this level of spirituality where I can kind of, be grateful for what I have and sit there and pray for the things I need to work on, or the struggles I've had during the week, or the battles I'm, fighting with myself internally, whether it's, past anger issues, or someone bumps you on the subway and you're thinking about them for 30 minutes later. Those aren't good tendencies to have, or those aren't good things to, really be focusing on. So even to this day now, I'm in mass every Sunday when I'm in town. I've got to do a better job when I travel. It always gets difficult because I normally fly home on Sundays. I became, ironically, I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but back in 2010, my brother-in-law, my future brother-in-law, he was engaged to my sister, died in a car accident. And my sister was pregnant with his child, his daughter, Gia, who's my niece now, who's, she's going to be 14 years old, I think, soon, right? That's what the math would be. She was born in about 2010, 2011. So do the math on that. But so John Bowles was a family member of ours, and he passed in a horrific car accident. And his father, John Sr., was the head usher of St. Patrick's Church in Huntington. And I remember during the first holiday that John was gone. So John died in May of 2010, and I think it was December of 2010. Christmas, we're spending it at my parents' house, and John's family was over, and it was a tough holiday, right? Everyone was sad, and everyone's dealing with it, but we're trying to be festive. And I looked at John Sr. and I said, John, listen, I know you're running the masses. Do you need any help? Do you need some help ushering? And he's like, Donnie, just come if you can. Like, I'm like, well, John, I'm normally at the 7:30 mass. It's the quickest mass. It's a 30-minute mass. You're in and out of there. And normally waking up, putting sweats on, you don't have to get dressed up. And he's like, yeah, listen, come when you can. So I started throwing a suit on, going to church back in about 2011. It was 11:30 mass. And John then ended up getting sick and wasn't the head usher anymore. And the head usher became this guy, Al Hayner, who was my head usher. And a few years later, dies in a car accident. And the new Monsignor of the church, who I ended up becoming very close with, was just brought into the church. And I was there one day, and he's like, you're the new head usher. So I'm ironically the head usher of my church. And it's, I got to be honest, it's something I really enjoy doing. We have a good team. It's no longer at the 11:30 mass. I run the 10 a.m. mass, and I think my oldest usher might be 10 years old because we have all these young ushers in there helping out, all these great little kids who love doing the collection baskets. And it's just like it's just a nice thing. But listen, when I say I'm spiritual, I pray, I try and work on things every day of my life. I mess up every day. I make mistakes every day. There's internal battles I battle every single day. But I know that's that 1 hour a week when I'm in there that I feel pretty good about myself. So I continue.
Well, in the first show that we talked about, we got into motive. You talked about that, motivating people, and that you have to find that unique motive in every person that you're working with, whether again, it's, an individual celebrity here, or whether it's thousands of people in your programs. And when you get to that, I often find, well, I'll ask you what you find when people are looking at that core motive when it comes to something greater than themselves. They're doing this for a purpose that's just beyond the mirror, in essence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really what's most important, right? I think a lot of times when we're younger and we're chasing muscle or we're chasing a look, I mean, there's that vanity component. I was watching Stallone's documentary last night, or I was watching something by Arnold Schwarzenegger a few days ago, and he was kind of sad. He was commenting to himself. He's like, I say to myself, what happened? Like, I was the most physical human being on the planet. I was this action hero, and now I'm in my 70s. My body's doesn't look the same, and it's not responding the same. And the reality is, it's going to happen to all of us, right? Like, I think we just got to accept it, and we have to understand there's other things in life. I just want to feel good. That's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing to feel good, and I'd like to get into my 80s and 90s, like, to where I feel good about how I look, and I have a level, and I'm healthy.
Yeah.
But the reality is, no one knows what's in store for them. Like, my brother-in-law didn't make it past 39 years old. I mean, God forbid. So I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to make this morbid, but I just think we gotta, not obsess over so much, and just go in there and be a good person and help people and take care of people. It's really been like my entire business plan as a coach. I've had the saying since 1999, because I remember like someone looking at me when I was at Equinox and being like, this is a luxury. Like, I don't need to spend my money on this. And I remember saying to myself, I want to convince them that this isn't a luxury. This is a necessity. And I use that line every week. I want to convince you this is a necessity, not a luxury. So many other things in life are gonna improve for you if we could take this a little bit more seriously. And that's been it's really what I focused on as my kind of my business tools.
I want to hit there. I want to go into that right there, because that feels like so much that we often come to when we're talking about any aspect of self-care, taking care of the self, kind of the old cliche of in the airplane, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before someone else. And we don't live like that as a culture. We don't think about that of, I have to get myself to a point of capacity to even be of use to other people. And it's interesting with what you're doing. So you have people so often coming to you for a physical transformation. Speak to it on that level of somebody going, because I love the concept of somebody going, okay, yeah, I came here to lose some weight or gain some muscle or whatever. Holy smokes, man. I got so much more. I got we hear that. So I got a new lease on life, a new perspective on life. Like, I'm excited about work again, or I'm excited about my relationships, that it feeds into that, which again goes to that point of, man, this is not a luxury. This is a kind of the surviving to thriving aspect. Is that fair?
Yeah, sure. There was a line that I stole from my therapist 20 years ago, and he used to tell me, clean your side of the street.
Yeah.
Right. And it's someone was joking around because I've used it for so many years, and they heard Taylor Swift saying that in a song. And I'm like, I didn't create that line. It was my therapist. I'll give him credit for it. But clean your side of the street. Most people think of it as something that's selfish. And I don't really understand how you can wake up every day and go about life, live it the way that you want to live it, or the way that we should approach life. If we're just feeling like shit, or if we're just sick and tired and out of shape and not feeling good about ourselves, looking at ourselves in the mirror, like, God, it's unbelievable when you're able to change someone's life or be a part of changing someone's life. Because I can't take credit. I can't take full credit of this as a coach. Like, people are like, well, you get them in shape. I'm like, no, they get themselves in shape, right?
Yeah.
I'm just there with the tools, and I'm there to massage their shoulders, and I'm there as like you're in a maze right now. Go that way. Now go that way. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm trying to give them the tools to be successful. But when you're able to be a part of a drastic change, oh my God, like when you get to keep your fingerprint on that, like, there's nothing better. I mean, it's one of the most fulfilling parts of my job is to turn around and to see that someone is now, able to date, or confident enough to throw a dress on, or confident enough to go out and meet someone. Or, you just saw a couple of my challengers, two of my challengers just got married. They met through our challenger group. Like, that makes me feel good. Like, oh my God, I helped bring them together, and they met at our retreat. Right. And that to me was awesome. So, like, to be a part of so many different people's lives and see them make that 180, that's honestly, anyone who knows me, this is not one thing. Any single human being that's ever been around me will tell you this is the most authentic thing that I'm saying. It's like I truly love it. It's truly what inspires me every day.
Okay, stay on there, because one of the categories here, Don, is work, career, business. Of asking what drives you. I mean, I think you just told me there, but let's expand on that. That you wake up, you got lots of opportunity, go a lot of different directions. So what drives you today to wake up and go, well, you're here on a show to talk and to reach more people. What is at the core of driving? You just talked about maybe the biggest one. It's one category within that of what drives you. Expand on it some.
So what drives me? I mean, it's just the ability to always improve more. And this is
in your work specifically here.
Yeah, I mean, but that's it. I mean, in either my work or either in my fitness or my wellness, I always think I can climb. I always think I can move in a good direction. I always think I can get better. I want to reach more people. I want to help more people out. I want to squat more weight. I want to get my body fat too. I want to get more mobile. I want to wake up with higher levels of energy. I want to improve my sleep quality. I want to get my REM a little bit better. Like, I just feel like it's such a cool field because it's just this constant puzzle that's being thrown at you every day, whether it's work or whether it's training. It's this puzzle every day. It's a never ending puzzle. And it's just like, I keep putting together pieces and that puzzle keeps expanding, but I'm just having fun playing the game. Like, I don't want it to stop, even though I know it's never going to end, or it'll end when I'm under the ground. I want to keep putting those pieces of the puzzle in. I want to keep figuring it out. And as I'm doing that, I'm also realizing that I could take what I'm learning and apply it to more people, or, just help get them better. So, it's funny. Like, a lot of coaches are like, oh, what drives me? My kids drive me. Like, I've always been driven before my children. I love my kids more than life. I love my wife more than anything. And my children, my family, that's it for me. But I was driven before my family. It wasn't like my kids are born and now I'm like, oh, I'm doing this for them. Like, no, I'm doing what I need to do to allow myself to be successful so they can see what I'm doing, and they can follow. It's like the parent that calls me up right now and they're like, how do you get your kids to eat well? I'm like, I don't. Like, well, what do you mean? Like, what do your kids eat? Do they ever eat fast food? I'm like, once in a while. We don't serve it in the house, but if like my son's got a game and he's starving and we're driving by a McDonald's and he wants McDonald's and there's no other food, like, I'm pulling in a McDonald's for him. Maybe I'm not eating it, but I'm letting it eat. How can you do that? I'm like, I turned out just fine. Like, if he has McDonald's once in a blue moon, he's going to be fine. But we're out at home and we're eating dinner together and we're having burgers. It's grass-fed meat. And maybe my wife's sauteing a vegetable or doing something a little bit different, or maybe it's air baked fries, or maybe it's something that's an alternative. And I'm like, and I look at the parent, I'll be like, oh my God, what a hypocrite you are. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do I mean? I'm like, how are you eating? Well, I want to worry about them first. I'm like, they're going to see what you're doing. They're going to follow you. And the best, this is a quick story and it's great. Please. Years ago, my kids asked to go on a hike. We have great hiking trails that are a couple miles down the road from me. And we take the kids on and they asked us, if we go on the hike, can you take us for ice cream after? I said, absolutely. So we went on this hike. It was like 4 or 5 miles. My kids were probably 7 and 8 years old. They just stormed it. My wife and I are looking at each other the whole time with a smile on my face. You know, those parenting moments. You're looking at your kids, you're like smiling. You're like, this is awesome. And right after, I'm like, all right, I promised you ice cream. Let's go for ice cream. Like, we don't want ice cream. What do you want? We want fruit smoothies. Okay. So I take them to this all natural fruit bar and they crush up the fruit and they make these delicious smoothies and they drink the smoothies. And then 3 or 4 hours later, they turned to me and they said, can we get ice cream now? And I said, absolutely. Of course we can get ice cream now. And the point was, I'm not going to deprive them. I'm not going to turn around to them and show them that I'm some like militant trainer father that's never going to let them enjoy. Like, no, we do these things. We enjoy these things. But my kids are like, they're musical, they're athletic, they're good kids. And they're active and they don't play video games really. And they do these things, not because I told them not to, but because they see their dad waking up at 4:30 in the morning, going out to do this. Or they see us going for walks with the dogs and they're like, can we take the bikes and come with you? And I'm like, sure. It becomes a family activity. You lead by example. But it's always blown my mind how a parent's going to turn around and they're like trying to have their children do things that they don't want to do themselves. They're calling me up for programs when they can't get to the gym. Let the kids play. Let them have fun. Let them enjoy it. You lead by example, and then they'll be in a much better place than you realize.
It's so interesting you say that, because I've also seen the other side too, where the parent is full on. They're full tilt boogie. They're going and they're pursuing their own health and wellness, but they don't transfer it else. And the kids are living on fast food and Doritos and whatnot. And you think, what's the disconnect? I mean, there is some values to relate here.
Listen, when I was a kid, I didn't necessarily have a great diet. I mean, I happen to not like foods that just weren't good for me. Like I never ate cheese. I never tried sour cream, mayonnaise, cottage cheese. I never ate these foods. I didn't like the consistency of it. So there were certain things I stayed away from, but I ate pizza every day, or I ate fast food every day, and I exercised and I moved. And out of nowhere, when I started finding out about these things, and at the time, like egg whites were the healthy thing, it's like, oh, I should be eating egg whites. Oh, I'll eat egg whites. That's better. Oh, I need to stop eating pasta and I eat brown rice instead. I'll do that. Oh, vegetables have fiber. I need that for nutrients. Okay. And I would just start doing these things. So I was the rarity of it. But listen, it's going to backfire on you as a parent sometimes. I do notice with parents, the ones that are really regimented, though, when they go in and they're really hardcore, you don't realize this because behind closed doors, like they're not telling you this, but behind closed doors, they're trying to force crap down on their kids that, even I wouldn't eat. And the kids are kids. Like they're not going to eat stuff if it tastes like shit. So that's where parents go wrong. They go way too extreme. Years ago at our club, we had these indoor golf simulators, and this mom and dad shows up. My brother's an exceptional, we both play golf, but he's like a well-known ranked amateur player, and was pro for a while, and yada, yada, yada. So they bring this kid in who's like 8 years old. He's a lefty, and he starts hitting shots in the bay, and is flushing them, and is laying the club off perfectly, and kinematic sequencing's perfectly, and his hips are firing, and his club's coming through the zone perfectly. And his father comes to me and goes, "What do we do? What do we do for him?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, I turned to dad. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, leave him alone. I'm like, let him be a kid. He's 8 years old. The father was almost had a heart attack. He said, "Well, we're coming to you because you guys understand golf and golf fitness." I'm like, your kid is too young. Let him hit golf balls. Let him swing the club hard. Let him have fun. But statistically, and I'm not saying it always happens. I mean, Tiger Woods turned out to be the greatest player in the world, probably ever. But statistically, the other 99.999% of the people whose father pushed him down that route ended up getting burned out and ended up quitting. Right? So, like, I think a lot of times parents, because they're so into it, they're trying to push their kids' heads in one direction, which could have been me, right? Like, my kids could be looking at me like, this guy's a lunatic. Like, he's like, he'll wake up at all hours, or he'll go train, or we'll be out eating and he'll eat X, Y. And once in a while, I had burgers or whatever it was. Sunday night, we went out and we partied a little bit for my son's birthday. It was fun. We had like, whatever, it is what it is. So, but they know now, like, this is just dad living his life. But I'm not sitting there going, you got to do X, Y, and Z, yelling at them. I'm like, I don't want to screw them up. I don't want them hating me, No,
I do know, actually, Don, because I kind of veered that way, not on being militant from a personal standpoint or whatever, but just in the home, man, it was 1,000%, clean. And then they'd get out and see this world of junk and almost felt like, oh, that's a bit much. So we had to, I did that with my older kids. My younger kids, we've been a lot more, my wife calls us now flexitarian instead of,
I like militant. That. Yeah, I like that. And listen, as a parent, I understand you want the best for your kids.
Yeah.
I tried it early on, like we were feeding them all healthy, organic. And I'll never forget, my son at one point choked at a young age. And he had this like reflex where like he got so freaked out for a full week, he wasn't eating any food. Like we couldn't give him any food. He was like crying, and he was probably 2 years old at the time. So at that time, I didn't give a shit what he was eating. I mean, I was giving him, sugary sticks of junk. It didn't matter. If he wanted some type of calories in his body, I'm like, get calories into his body. So when you see, an extreme like that, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I just realized that kids are resilient. They're going to be fine. They're going to be all right.
That's fair. On the drive for work, I don't want to put you in a box to say, okay, what's your favorite kind of testimonial? Maybe that I could ask that though, or ask, or what's been a recent one that's just been really fulfilling. Cause it could be, the weight loss or the muscle gain, or it could be just what it did for them personally. Give me a testimonial.
I think something like I always think it's more when that personal touch is tied into it rather than like a number. Like, Don, help me lose 40 pounds. Like, that's great, but that's easy. Like, I like when someone really is able to reflect on how I've helped change their way or help allow them to think differently or maybe change their quality of life for the better. Like, for me, that's really where it's at. I mean, it's fun when people lose weight. Like, it's fun telling the story of the woman who lost 500 pounds. It's fun. But it's almost even better when you could turn around and just see, like, when someone says, like, I'm a completely different person now because of this human being. And I always say, even to my challenger group, I'm like, guys, listen, there's going to come a point where you're going to get sick and tired of seeing me. You're going to get sick and tired of my voice. This isn't going to be shiny and new anymore. But I'm literally at the point where I want them at some stage in their life later on to be like, no, he taught me this, or no, this was an intricate part of my journey. And I always want them to remember the things I left them with. And I think that for me is the best testimonial.
That's a great lead into next category is relationships.
Yeah.
Just as you look at your relationship, you're obviously the highly relational guy. It's just why you're here on the show. But tell me, when you look at that what are you looking at to stay where you want with relationships? What are you valuing most?
Wow. This is fun. It's a great question because I've even thought about it. I feel like my personal life might be diminishing a little bit. And I'm not saying like I'm not turning people off or my personal life is diminishing a little bit and my business life is expanding. Probably because when I get home on weekends, no offense to my friends, but like it's fun to be with my wife. It's fun to be with my kids as long as they want to be with us. I mean, right now they're at that age, they're 15 and 16. So right now, we're balancing that out with them wanting to go out and one of them do their thing. But I think like come the evening, I really throwing on a pair of sweatpants like I'm wearing right now and just having some dinner and sit in front of the TV with my 3 dogs and have my kids around and my wife. It's pretty awesome. But relationships and one name I'll throw out there. We're talking a lot about Dr. Gabrielle Lyon.
Yeah.
I find myself really wanting to put my time into people like that because they're putting so much time into me. And, when you see someone who is so unselfish and so successful and so incredible at everything she does and her family, I love her family. I love her husband, her children. When you're around someone like that is trying to bring so much value to the table, you want to give that value back tenfold. And even like, she didn't have to talk to you about me. Like she didn't have to, but she thought to throw my name out there because we both have helped each other out drastically. We both add a lot of value to each other's lives. She called me up and I think it was like a month or so ago. And she's like, I'm having an event in January. I'm like, I'm in. And she just started laughing. I'm like, I'll pay the plane ticket, the hotel, just worry about your stuff. I'm in. She's like, wait a second. I haven't given you the detail. Just give me the dates. You and I will talk about it. I'm in a rush. I'm putting it in my calendar right now. We'll talk about it later. I'm in. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's over in Europe. I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up. And she's so those are the relationships right now I'm really enjoying. And there are some business relationships for me that's turned into that for me. And that has been a blast because now you're like hanging out with someone you have a lot in common with and you could tie work into it and you could grow together and build together and all win. That to me is really, that's what I want to be doing in my business world. Those are the people I want to surround myself with.
Love it. This seems like a goofy category for you. It was the same thing. It's funny. It was the same thing with Gabrielle.
Right.
I have somebody who's a health and wellness professional to ask them, what drives you in your health and wellness? We've been talking about that for the last couple of hours, but I'll still ask the question when you look at it and you talked a lot about just the personal aspect of it, that when you think about it, it changes and evolves. I like that too. You could even say that. What has evolved and how do you, think it will evolve for you as you look at your own health and wellness? And I am going to put this in a physiological aspect because the next question's on mental specifically.
Yeah. I think, again, I just want to feel a certain way. I want to feel a certain way. I want to have this level of energy. I've always prided myself on my resiliency and my energy level and my work ethic and the fact that, having strength and having endurance and having these things are something it's made me feel good. It's made me feel good since I'm a young age. And, I want to hold on to that as long as possible. And I still believe I can improve those areas. And that's what's fun for me. I believe I can improve those areas. There are so many things right now in my 40s that have improved since I'm in my 30s or since I'm in my 20s. There are things now I could just do better. And it's just, I mean, obviously from a mental standpoint, but even a physical standpoint. And there's things from physically that I just aren't too concerned with that maybe I was concerned with back when I was in my 20s. And that has shifted a bit. So it's been a fun journey. I feel like anytime I jump into something, it's like I'm committed to it. And I'm like, all right, this is my block of training right now for the next 3 months. And I'm approaching it like it's the be all end all. And then, that, like, for me, the training aspect of it, that daily battle it's really a lot of fun for me.
You've mentioned energy. Every time it's been about you, that you want to feel a certain way and you want to feel energy. And that we're in a time when I don't think energy's ever been talked about more. We got a multi-billion-dollar energy drink and food business because obviously everybody is lacking energy. So looking at that as they may come to you, give me a snapshot there. They may come to you for this physical, a number, as you said, lose this much weight, gain this much muscle, get this size, whatever it is. And yet the testimonies that you've got to be getting of, oh my gosh, and my energy level is this, or I used to have migraines was this, or I used to have horrible PMS or whatever. You've got to be getting testimonials like that are kind of byproducts in essence.
Yeah. 100%. Yes. I mean, you just said it. I mean, there's nothing else I could really add to that. I mean, energy for me has been like, I understand once we start fixing that area, so many other things start, falling into place. I think a lot of us don't want to go to the root of the problem. It takes too much time. Like even getting onto this whole TRT thing now, right? Like this testosterone replacement therapy. Now, it's becoming like the Wild West out there. I'm actually...
Well, we want a pill. We still want a pill.
Yeah, I am. Pill. Yeah, but listen, I'm a bit disappointed because everyone now is kind of reverting to, well, my T's low. I'm like, well, your T's low because you're drinking 5 nights a week and you're sleeping 3 hours a day. So why don't you fix that first rather than going for injections? I'm not saying certain people are not going to benefit from it or need it, but I've never taken it. This is going to sound like a very egotistical thing to say because I don't need it. Dr. Gabrielle could share my bloods with you or anyone. Like, I don't care. Like, if my blood markers were at a certain level, why would I ever inject myself with something that killed one of my best friends 12 years ago? I found him dead in his apartment because he got on it at such a young age. He was older than me. He couldn't get off of it. And it became addictive. And he kept adding and adding and adding. And he didn't survive. And he was my head coach. And I had to bury him. He had no family. So when you see people go through these battles and you see what can happen, it's scary for me. I'm seeing teenagers getting on this stuff. And I'm seeing guys in their 20s. I'm like, guys, what is going to happen 10, 15, 20 years from now? I can understand if you're 70 or 80 years old or, you're getting into the fourth quarter of your life, right? And you're like, all right, things aren't working the way they want to work. And I want to close out this chapter feeling like $1 million. Go to a doctor. Go speak with someone and understand, the pros and cons to it all. But now it's the Wild West. You have everyone online talking about it like they're trying to generalize it. As a guy, you need to do this, or this is, and I think that's unfair. So I think it's like the person who consumes too much coffee during the day. They just keep drinking coffee. I'm tired. I'm like, well, I've never been one to say I'm going to drink coffee because I'm tired. I drink coffee because of performance. If I'm tired, I need to understand why I'm tired. Yeah. If I'm tired because a relative died and I haven't been sleeping, well, that's pretty tough to fix. I'm going to have to ride this out and I'll hopefully correct it. It's a tragic thing, right? But if I'm tired because I'm watching Netflix movies with my wife till midnight and I have to be up at 4 a.m, that's my fault. Yeah. I start adding extra caffeine, that's going to put me into a tailspin. And that's what I mean. We have to be responsible for our health. The individual who's having way too much caffeine for me, they don't think it's a problem. It is a problem. It is irresponsible, and they are gonna lose their health in time because no one has ever won that battle. We're gonna age, and this stuff's gonna get harder. It's gonna get more difficult and more difficult. Remember Lyle Alzado? Remember the professional football? Yeah, vaguely, he's a professional football player. I think he played for the Raiders. One of the most brutal NFL guys of all time. Like, he got diagnosed with cancer. The next thing you know, he's 125 pounds in his bed, and he died decades ago. But I don't care how strong, big, and tough you are. At a certain point when your health goes, you got nothing. You got nothing. So like we sit here, we abuse it, we make decisions now, and we don't actually think of the ramifications. And it's it's very real.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because that is and the reason we're doing this is for quality of life. It's not to look a certain way, no different than talking with Gabrielle Lyon about strength and muscle and protein. My interest with her was on the cognitive value that it gave, that we see these people who's here's the 90-year-old bodybuilder and they can still do this many push-ups or whatever. And I'm sitting there thinking, you notice during the interview, they are 100% cognitively there. That's the end game. That's the end game.
It's so special. It's so.
It is.
Do you remember? You remember Jack LaLanne, right?
Oh man, of course, of course.
I was.
Here's I got a favorite quote of him.
Yeah,
Jack. When's it okay to not exercise? Is it okay to miss a day of exercise? And he says, "Well, sure, just don't eat that day."
I never heard that.
Yeah, I had his paperback. It was like a paper thing, a manual, and it was chair dips and all kinds of stuff. So keep going. All right.
I trained with him once.
Really?
I was probably 21, 22 years old. I think it was at Gold's Gym on 54th Street, which is my home gym. And I think Gold's Gym was either doing it like their whatever the anniversary was, or it was Jack LaLanne's birthday. Jack came into the gym and I had a sleeveless shirt on and they had a camera crew and he points at me and I'm like, oh man, like this is Jack LaLanne. I'm like, nice to meet you, sir. I was like, he's
That's
like,
awesome.
You want to work out? I'm like, sure. So we ended up working out together. And when he passed, they invited me up to they had a documentary on him in the Tribeca Film Festival. So, I was living in the city at the time. So I just, shot over there and went to the documentary. And I think I probably cried a few times in the documentary. I was there by myself and just watched the story of this guy. He was just a journeyman and just like, he revolutionized everything. Like people ask me now, they're like, what's your long-term plan? I'm like, I want to be the modern day Jack LaLanne. Like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. Like I steal his name and I steal his line. It's like my title. But his wife, Elaine LaLanne, I met. There's a picture of us on the internet and we're flexing next to each other. I really should print it out. And she got on stage in front of the entire audience in her 90s and dropped to her hands and busted out 20 perfect hard style push-ups, hips down, body up at the same time. Like 20 perfect push-ups. I was like, it was one of the most inspiring things that I saw. And I realized at that time, I was like, holy shit, this does not have to be where we're all in a wheelchair in our last couple of days, right? Like this does not have to be where things go to complete. But between now and then, we got to do our homework. Like for us to go and listen, I don't want to think about when I'm 90 or God willing, I make it to 100. I don't want to think about those days because then I've got my timer out at this point. Like I want to enjoy where I am now. Yeah. But part of the motivation also is to, I want to be healthy. I want to be the guy in his 60s, 70s, and 80s where people are like, oh my God, he looks like he's 40, 50. That's always allowed me to feel good about myself, a level of significance. And can I do that? I think I can, but again, who knows what life throws at us, but it's fun. It's a fun challenge to embark on. It's a fun challenge to face every day.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, man, I'm with you I had a class this morning with a bunch of folks that I lead, and we talked about our health span equaling our lifespan, man. That is my goal at whatever age the heart stops beating. I want to be doing well till then. Tell me about your mental health. Your mind, even mindset. And I appreciate you saying that you have or you do see a therapist, but tell me what you are doing, what drives you, what's the mental state you want to be in. You talked about that, to be energetic, to be at full capacity, but then what you are doing to safeguard that and to, the habits behind that. Yeah.
Listen, it's definitely the hardest area for me, right? I wish I still saw my therapist. He retired. I never really got back with anyone. That was probably some of the best money that I've spent at the time. Just being able to go and talk to someone and, get like a very unbiased opinion, I think is something I value more than most. Now it's like, listen, you got aging parents, right? Their health at times, physical and mental, is a little off. Everyone's got people in their family that, you bump heads with. I'm very close to my family, but there's always, an outcast here or there that you got to deal with. You've got people pulling you in different directions, or unfortunately, not everyone's like Dr. Gabrielle Lyon or group of friends that I have around me. Like there's people just trying to take. But this is all on me. These are all things that I have to do. I've been doing a better job dealing with, and I'm going to continue to do a better job dealing with. So, last night, I woke up, I'm laying in bed, nothing wrong, right? But just laying in bed and my mind starts wandering. Like that was something I never did in my early 20s. My head
Yeah.
would hit the pillow, I'd be out. Now my head hits the pillow. I am gone for the first 5, 6 hours. I wake up to use the bathroom, and then sometimes I'm right back asleep, and then other times I'm laying there thinking. So I think that's about as real as it's going to get. I mean, it's not like that's probably the things that, oh my God, I remember the days in high school. You used to just go to bed, and the next thing you know, you're waking up at 7 a.m. You don't even remember anything. Like, oh my God, like that would be probably one of the best gifts I can receive now. The thought of sleeping, all the way through the night and not using the bathroom once would be something
Dude,
I enjoy.
that's so funny you say that, because that is my killer. And I tried, in the night to limit any liquid in general, but then I'll end up and I'll wake up, and it's usually, man, there's about a 50-60% chance that my mind's going to start going and try to shift and get it out of there. I will tell you, man, I keep a book beside my bed. I always read. I enjoy fiction at night, and I'll read. And I found that sometimes if I realize, okay, it's not going to stop, I'll roll over, I'll turn my little book light on
Smart.
and read for a little bit, and I can get past it and go back to sleep. So I'm battling that though.
It's really smart. I actually may start doing that. I have a new paperback that I want to dive into. I normally, the only times I'm kind of having disruptive nights like that is when I know I have to be up early. So this morning I was up at whatever it was, 4:30 in the morning, and then I think that's bringing me back to the training days when I remember I had a client would send a car for me to drive me to Rye to train him for 45 minutes and then drive me to Manhattan. And I'd be up in Rye at 6 a.m. from Long Island. Oh my God. And I did that for, 6 years. And I remember there were years, probably 3-4 years where I had to wake up at 3:45. So I think when I know I have to wake up early, I think it's this old like trigger that's going off in my head. I'm kind of all messed up from it. Yeah. But what was it? Sunday, I didn't have to wake up through an alarm, and I think I used the bathroom once, and then I passed down. I think I slept to 6:45. I woke up and I was like, oh my God, like, this is like lotto. Anyone's like, what do you want? I'm like, if I could just sleep perfectly every single night with everything else I have going on in my life, I'd be invincible.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And I'm also, it's funny that I can't sleep that. I just can't sleep late. Like I want to sleep in, try to do that. And the kids will say, Daddy, did you sleep in? I'm like, yeah, I made it to 6:30. Like you're so old.
Dude, oh my God. My daughter could do like 10, 11 o'clock. And she's like waking up. She's coming down when I'm having my third meal. Yeah. And I'm like, how'd you sleep? She's like, oh, great. I'm like, oh God. Yeah. I'm so jealous.
Yeah. I will ask you on this, Don. So, when you look at your mental state, and I mean, so you are obviously an inspired guy, you're a driven guy, you're enjoying life, you've got good energy, but where do you find yourself at risk mentally with your mental state? Where do you have to take a little advocacy to know, man, I can go down the wrong path here?
Yeah. I just do way too much. I'm just doing way too much at times. And ironically, I can't even say that I don't see my family or like I got to spend more time with my kids. I see my kids all the time. My wife and I work together. I see her all the time. We're in our children's lives, but like, I just can't shut down at times. Like I'll even find myself watching a movie and going to my phone at 9:00 at night and checking it. Like put the phone down already. Like it's ridiculous. Like it becomes like a drug and you really have to get disciplined with it. Like tonight by 7, like I'll try and leave this upstairs. And I normally go to it once to just check to see that no texts came in that are emergencies. Like, oh my God, like get off it, dude. Like it's give yourself from 7 o'clock to the next morning to not check your phone. That's what scares me a bit. It's just the access you have, everything at your fingertips. So it's become a blessing, and things get so great and easy for us now, right? Like we're in an Oura ring. Like, you're waking up in the morning, the alarm goes off, and like I'm going to my Oura reading. Dude, chill out. Like, go drink some water, go brush your teeth, go have some breakfast, check in a couple hours later. Like, don't be so on all the time. And that's definitely with me can be a problem.
That's funny. I'm on, obviously I'm injured right now too, but I'm kind of taking a fast from my wearable information because right now it's irritating too, because it's not that great. I'm not exercising. So it's all kind of
now. Yeah.
I'm just out because it's just depressing. So I follow you there. All right. Money, finances, wealth. Tell me about your drive around that.
Well, it's there, right? I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, we all want to be successful, right? I mean, we all
Mhm.
want to make, we all want to make that coin. And um, now I do very well, but could I have done better up until this stage right now by doing things that weren't really in line with my values 100%? It's like I could have freaking started an OnlyFans page for my feet, have 10 Ferraris in my garage at this point. It's like there's certain things that you're just gonna do and not gonna do, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
just not gonna I'm not gonna sign a deal with a supplement company that's gonna pay me a few $1 million a year, $1 million a year, and it's a crap product. I just can't do it. Um, but yeah, listen, to financially be able to do better and better, it's fun. It's fun to have stability in your life. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to be able to grow businesses and grow a team around you and see everyone else around you become more successful and build something. That's
And
fun.
on that, you shared in the first show that
Yeah.
you've had some times when the financial abundance was not there
It
and
was
you
tough.
were at risk. Yeah.
It was tough, but I wasn't like, oh, what's this happening to me? Like, I'll give my wife a lot of credit. Like we Hurricane Sandy leveled I owned a really nice apartment in New York City, and it just demolished our building. And we weren't planning on moving out here. So we moved out here. My parents had a little guest cottage in their backyard. It was like an old barn they had converted to 2 bedrooms, bathroom, nothing crazy. But we had the luxury of being able to move in there rent free. We were by my parents, and it was great. It was really a nice time. Probably lived there for about 4 years. But I remember the first 3 years, like we stopped taking a salary from my business because there was so much going on in the city. There was so much pivoting going on with our business that a way to really fast track, the recovery of our business was if I stopped taking a salary. So I stopped taking a salary. My wife and I we paid off all our debt. We lived off our finances for like 3 years. And we burned our nest egg to nothing, but we like kind of fist bumped each other. And she's like, this is awesome. Like, we're going to wipe the slate clean and we're going to get a clean start. And we looked at it that way and we rebuilt. And then we were able to now buy a beautiful home, and we're in a beautiful area, and we're on 2.5 acres. And I was able to come in and build this barn. And it's, I think you really appreciate things when things don't go well. But you know what? I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that I have the right partner by my side. It's my wife, right? She's my 50-50 partner. She runs the back end of everything. She is like your numbers person. She can sit in front of a computer for 15 hours a day, and she's brilliant. And she allows me to do the things I need to do to be successful. And on the other hand, like I tell her, sometimes she'll come out here when I'm filming and she'll like, she say this and that. I'll look at her, why don't you get on camera? I hate it. We'll joke around about it. She I can't do that. Like, you're beautiful. She can do whatever she wants, but she doesn't want to get on camera. So, we know our strengths and weaknesses, and we play to that. And I think that's beneficial. But listen, man, we weren't, there were times where it was like, dude, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
But I think when you get, like, you don't cry about it. You've got one choice. We had 2 kids at the time, right? It's tough when you get put in that situation, but you got to just dig out of it. And then when you dig yourself out of it, man, are you so much smarter?
Achievements. That's next. What drives your achievements? Which is interesting because you picked up a couple of times. You just had a really good one. You're on the front cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine, which is more than just being a cover model. In that, obviously, it speaks to a lot of fruition from a lot of years of work and a lot of people. And I know I saw somewhere where you gave credit to people who helped you, get there, and that helps expand your reach and whatnot. But when you look at that, so here you are at your age you are now, and you're looking forward. You've done a lot of things, and you're looking forward to what you still want to do. What's driving the achievements?
Yeah, listen, there's a million guys out there that, are probably leaner than me or bigger than I am or whatever it is. I mean, I think a lot of the reasoning for the magazine were the things I did do in business, and, the body looks okay. So I think they gave me they gave me a nice opportunity over the last several years a few times. And I'm very grateful for that. But, I mean, the one thing I'm going to say about my achievements that you're going to roll your eyes to, it's my family. It's like, it's the one area there's so many things in life that we look back on. You're like, I have to do this better. I could do that better. Or, man, if I opened Drive and I just knew this, which is the name of one of my clubs, I just knew this. Or when I opened Driven, when I started Driven with those professional athletes, if I just did this, like the one area I look at, I'm like, I just couldn't have done any better, was my family. It's like my wife and my 2 children. Like, I look at them, daily, and I'm just like, oh man, that was like far surpass anything I could have hoped for. So that, it sounds corny, but that I'm incredibly grateful for. My relationships, I just feel like, that the people around me, they're just great, and they've been incredible, and they believe in me. And people like Gabrielle, who just have, they would go to bat for you any day of the week. Or when you see people genuinely say nice things about you or do nice things, that to me is really special. It really makes me feel good. The clients I work with, completely grateful for. Someone like Ryan and Blake, who are, two people that I absolutely love. John Krasinski, Annie Hathaway, and Emily Blunt, these people, Sebastian, these are great people, but they've been amazing to me, but especially Ryan and Blake, because the level of loyalty they've shown to me and the ride they allowed me to come on with them is just, it's just unbelievable. Just the exposure that you receive and the support and the conversations over the last 15 years, and just the help they've given me and the love. It's just, I'm grateful. So, anytime I'm around these people and I walk out, I always get like a little pep in my step. And even to this day, I'm just excited because they believed in me, and they're continuing to just kind of sprinkle me with great things. And that I'm really happy for. So, family, huge part of it for me.
Interest. That's the last one. Just personal interest. The things that you do. Doesn't have to be in this, but I like to look sometimes at it's the non-productive thing, the thing that just, inspires Don, man. You just do it. It's just part of who you are.
Putting aside the training, we're not talking fitness right now.
Right?
Right?
I know everything is fun in that sense, but this is something that you do. It's just, it's a hobby. It's an activity. It's self-care, whatever.
Yeah. You want to know what? I want to take all health and self-care stuff out of that, but like,
fair.
I love music. Like, I'm obsessed with music. I used to speak a decent Italian. I lost that probably 10, 12 years ago. I'd love to learn that again. I'd love to play an instrument because music is such a big part of it. I play golf. I love playing golf. I bought a boat this year. I love the water. I love being out on the water. My wife and I, after a call like this in the summertime, it's 5:20 right now. We would have been on the boat on the water, cruising around the harbor, maybe going to dinner in Connecticut, which is only 7 miles away from Long Island. So, golf, getting out. I play a decent amount. Like, unfortunately, I live pretty close to my golf club. I'm out on the course probably 2-3 days a week. I could play a round of golf in the morning with the head of orthopedics of Huntington Hospital. We'll tee off at 7:05 and we're off the course by 9:05. We take 2 carts, 18 holes in 2 hours. So, I've got a bunch of friends that I play with. Hockey, I play ice hockey, club. I play once a week all year long, and in the wintertime, I play 2 to 3 days a week. And that's normally 6:30, 7 a.m. So I get there, play early, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Early. Kids aren't even up yet.
Yeah.
So those things are fun. That's kind of, those are like releases for me. Like, I need that. If I'm so obsessed with all this stuff in here, if I'm just all focused on that all the time, I think sometimes it gets a bit unhealthy and you need to kind of venture out. But who knows? Maybe I'll start playing the drums or doing something at a certain point. You got to put time into it though.
Yeah. Tell me what I'd find on the recent music playlist.
Oh, wow. All right. So I think I'm a metalhead at heart. Like, I've just...
Yeah, I know. I see your t-shirt.
Yeah, so I'm wearing a Megadeth t-shirt, guys. I dressed up for today. I got sleeves on, guys, so you got to be grateful for that. But like, groups like Megadeth, Metallica, like, I grew up listening to those groups. But man, I listen to... If you go to my Spotify channel, I've got a whole Spotify playlist, and I have everything from like 80s new wave, right? I've got everything from Depeche Mode to Duran Duran to, I'm into Bob Marley. I'm into Genesis, Phil Collins, Led Zeppelin, the Allman Brothers. I listen to everything, little hip hop and R&B here and there, but music is something that for the last 30 years of my life has been in my ear. I worked at gyms. I own gyms. There's a gym I worked at back in 2000 called the Training Ground, and we would just play games on what music or what playlist to play, or at the times it was CDs. We were playing CDs. It wasn't even like you had Spotify. So we were just all day long, we were listening to music and music trivia and baseball. My family is obsessed with the Mets. We probably go to 10 to 15 Met games a year, which is kind of a lot for us. We're hoping they have a better team this year, but it's one of those things that we do with our family together. Snowboarding. I'll be in Whistler. I'll be in Austria this year. Whistler with the family, Austria with some friends. do a Vermont trip with the family, so I'll get like 3 trips. That's another big one. That's it. I mean, it's pretty good.
It's great. No, I love it. I should find your music playlist, man. I adore Spotify. I got a big family, and that's one of our most common bonds is sharing music.
Oh my God, my Spotify thing is just, it's on and on and
Yeah.
on. It's just fun. It's just a fun.
I love the end of the year wrap up they give you. It says, I think it's, you're the adventurer, and you listen to more than like 99.9% music lovers, that they've got on the thing. And it speaks. It's a big part of my mental health, honestly.
Oh yeah.
And just joy.
I mean, I couldn't imagine life without music. I mean, I'm in here in the morning. Music sets your mood. You find a song sometimes. Workouts are going tough. Sometimes I'll hit repeat on that song and just getting into a groove, and you find that rhythm. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And Don, it's been a gift. It's been a gift. I want to drive everybody to your website.
Thank you,
Don. Hey, thank you. And donsaladino.com. Go there. And again, look, you can take the quiz, find out what resources of his are going to, might fit you. And on the e-programs, you can take 20% off if you use the code drive. And I'd ask you guys, if you got some value out of this, which I know you did, let us know. Go to Spotify, leave a rating, go to Apple and mention this, leave a review and say, oh my gosh, he had Don on the show. This is what I learned. This is how it changed my life, gave me some value. That is a gift. You can watch us here. You can check him out in his barn that he just talked about on his property with all his equipment behind him, and where he's inspired so many other people. If you go to YouTube or check out social media, we'll have a bunch of clips on this. Go to Kevin Miller, CO. And if you want to learn how to master your own drive, check out my book, What Drives You, on Amazon. And until next time, stay driven.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.